Welcome to episode 62 of Marathon Talk, powered by Abbott World Marathon Majors. On this week's show, Tokyo rounding out the spring elite field announcements, and it is another long list of big-time names. A new treadmill world record is in the books pending. A man wins a marathon in a super sandal. Plus, we welcome former guest from way back, Tim Good from the Matthew Good Foundation is back on the show to talk about the running app Race Ready. All right, let's go. Martin, how you doing? What have you been up to? 2 weeks, I've missed you.
And I'm wet, Dina. I'm wet. It's constantly raining in the UK at the moment. We've been battered by storms relentlessly. And I'm not joking. As I'm recording this, you sort of looked at me and laughed because my top is like all wet. And all I did was run up, like from my house to the garden, which is where we do this recording, where I do the recording. You're in your mansion in the hills. And so I ran, I run up my garden and I got absolutely drenched. I just feel like the weather at the moment is, in the UK, it's not very nice, shall we say.
For our audio listeners, you can't see Martin. He's polka dotted right now because he was pelted with raindrops on his run from the house to the garden. Yeah. But people, we've even with a lot of the people from the Gold Club Masterclass that we're speaking to each month, they're having a hard time. They're running races in 20-degree weather. They're having to get out and do their 20-milers in adverse conditions. So you still have the discipline to get out. I'm a treadmill geek when the weather is fake.
Are you?
Most of the time I'm like, I'm just going to bang it out on the treadmill. But how do you get out there and do it? Like, what inspires you to just put on the shoes and get out in the wet weather and continue to get in the miles?
That is a good question. I think you need gusto, which is wobbling every now and again, because I don't mind going out in the rain. I'll tend to wrap up. I'm a shorts year round. I'm not a shites wearer. Shorts over tights. I'm certainly not.
You call that a shite?
Shites. I don't do the whole shites thing. Shorts over tights. I'm just shorts, but I do wrap up on the top half. I do tend to layer up. And if it's really bucketing down, I wear a hat or a cap and I put the hood up and I kind of wear a buff and I zip the jacket right up and I pull the jacket right in and I do up the toggles. So literally I'm like this. So just
your nose is showing? Okay.
Well, even that's covered. Just my eyes so that I can see where I'm going.
Because your buff is covering your nose.
Yeah. And then I'll go and as I did, I think yesterday, shuffle 5 miles in some sort of state of misery. Or I think to myself throughout the whole point of the run, throughout the whole time of the run, I think, what am I doing this for? It's raining. I'm Mr. Grumpy. And then I get home and then I feel amazing, because your hands come back to life and, you're less cold and the feeling of the rain on your face and the wind. And when you're all dry again and you're back in the house and you're all in your comfy clothes feeling all smug, I kind of like it then.
It's like that time when your knees start to ache as they thaw out and you have this dull, nauseous pain in your knees. And as that's getting better, then the gnarliness of what you just did sets in and you start to feel really good about yourself. I can relate to that.
Yeah, I have got, I don't wear them running, but I do wear them cycling. I have got a pair of heated gloves.
Do you wear it with your heated vest? The heated vest?
Sometimes on the bike. But to be fair, it's got to be pretty cold to wear a heated vest. So I've now got a heated vest and heated gloves. I go out looking like some sort of wired up electric blanket.
Yeah, I feel like I'm kind of missing out on this whole electric clothing thing because I was just at a ski resort at a competition, and one of the dads that was standing next to me, we were in this storm and we're standing there, and he said, "I'm going to take a couple laps." Like when he says take a couple runs or a couple laps, it
Right.
means on the chairlift for skiing. But he said, because I think my socks are running out of batteries. And I said, what? You have battery powered socks? So his socks are heated. And he thought that they were either like weren't measuring up against how cold it was there. It was like in the teens, Fahrenheit. Okay. And so he went to do a couple ski runs to try to warm up a little. So I'm really missing out on the plug-in clothing here.
So I've just Googled heated socks because that to me is a revelation.
Okay. Oh, and your birthday's coming up, Martin. You've got a February birthday just like me, so you could put that on your wish list.
Heated socks.
You just put it in your cart, didn't you?
Yeah, it's not, they're kind of not doing it for me at the moment.
No. Maybe they're not fashionable enough?
Maybe they're £139, not fashionable enough.
Oh, wow.
I mean, I'll wear 3 pairs of socks. That's
expensive. And then your electric bill goes up too because you're plugging them in every day.
I know, charging everything up all the time. I know. So, but I have been running. I have been out in the rain a couple of times. I have done. I think what I said when we began recording the show again in the start of the year was that I really wanted to try and get back into my running. And for the first few weeks, that was all tickety-boo. It was going swimmingly well. And then I got a bit ill. And it sort of took a right old dive. And to be honest, I don't feel like I've quite recovered from that illness. And I keep creeping back. And then I do what I think is a reasonable run. I don't recover as well as I know I should be from that run. And instead of me thinking the next day or the day after, I'm back on it, it's 4 or 5 days before I feel okay again, which makes me think I'm not ready. So I keep backing it off for a few days. So I don't feel particularly consistent with my running at the moment. I did bag a reasonable tempo run a couple of days ago. I thought I had to really force myself to do it. You know, when you're deep in, a marathon preparation phase, for example, and you're really deep into it and you're thinking, I just got to force myself out for this. And at other times, it feels like not much has changed and it all feels really easy and you actually really want to go out and you're in a flow and you're just loving going out for your running sessions. At the moment, I'm having to crowbar myself out for these running sessions. But I know it will change.
Yeah.
I wish it would change a bit quicker.
Yeah. And I think that flow and the ease that comes when your fitness is good is what we chase all the time, right? But that's part of the gratification that comes with that feeling is because you know where you started from or know the struggle that January gave us. And so in February, you're going to be patting yourself on the back as your age turns another year older. You're going to be like, wow, getting older feels so good because I'm getting fitter. So keep at it, Martin. Keep at it. I'll just say keep at it. There's also London Marathon coming up, and you do so much with that. Have you been busy with organizing stuff for London?
Well, I've not been busy organizing, but I have been busy presenting. And so we had the TCS London Marathon Meet Our Experts event at the Mermaid Theatre, which is a new venue in London. So I was there just across the road from the Tate Modern. So I actually went to the Tate Modern and had a little look around in between, as you do, in between presentations. So I think it was good. It's always full of, I ask everybody to put up a hand on how they're feeling, whether they're nervous, whether they're excited, whether they're confident, whether they're clueless. And we kind of always get all of those things. And most people don't have much confidence, are very clueless. They say they are a little bit excited and very nervous. So it's all about putting those people at ease like with 14 weeks before the London Marathon, and giving them some training guidance, which I think we did quite well.
Right. And it's such an important time. I love that the London Marathon does this each year or that you do this each year with the London Marathon, because when people begin their taper, that's when their mind really starts to shed doubt on what they're doing. They've got some extra time to dwell and overthink. And it's a really good time to bring in the emotional reinforcement, to bring in the experts and really calm those nerves. It's such great timing on the marathon's part. So I'm glad you were able to taper some of those nerves in so many of the people running.
Thanks very much.
In our last episode, Martin and I talked extensively about the London Marathon fields and the Boston Marathon fields. And this week it was Tokyo's turn. And I thought, man, they don't have anybody left. Where are they going to pull some runners from? But they had a big reveal. Their elite athlete field is smoking. So they'll be lining up March 2nd to take on the first major of the year. And it includes 6 sub 204 guys. Can you believe that?
I guess, yeah. You know, it's...
After what we already said about Boston and London, we still have 6 sub 204 guys to add to the mix in Tokyo. That's mind-blowing to me.
Yeah, Benson Kipruto set a new course record there last year when he ran 2:02.26. Derisa Gelato of Ethiopia ran 2:02.38 in Valencia. Vincent Getic was third in Tokyo last year behind Gessi, ran 2:02.48 in Berlin in 2019. And he won in Tokyo in 2020. I mean, what? You know, that's like some proper hitters in the Tokyo field, all with sub 2:03 PBs.
Right. And that's not even to mention additions of Tadesse Tequile and DeWitt Wolde, who have performed so well trying to get on the podium of these major races. And we all have high hopes for Joshua Cheptegei, the Olympic 10,000 meter champion and world record holder in the 5 and 10,000. He's having his second go at the marathon after Valencia didn't go quite as planned for him in 2023. He's taken a year plus to get it right this time. You know, I wonder, some people are just made for the marathon and they get it right from the start. And then there's most of us, it takes us a while to understand the marathon and to have it click and to start peeling off some personal best. But he ran 2:08.59 in Valencia, really struggled. And we know there's more left in him.
Well, I remember speaking to the legendary Bruce Fordyce, who was, you know, winner of the Comrades Ultra Marathon in South Africa and an absolute icon in South Africa. And one of the things Bruce said was, you can't run Comrades until you've run Comrades.
Interesting.
It's a little bit like, you know, some people, you're right, they debut on a marathon and that they never get any quicker. You know, and the marathon distance does something to them where they run quickly and they never go any quicker. And for other people, they race themselves into the marathon. You know, they might progressively get better because they learn about what works for them in their training. They learn about how to approach a race, and slowly and steadily they'll get better. And for some people that, you know, because you don't race a ton of marathons, right? So it could be 2 or 3 years before people are actually reaching their marathon peak. Dina, how long was it for you from your marathon debut to your marathon peak?
Right. That's a great question. It was more than a decade of progressing, of getting better at the race. So it was 2001, my first marathon. 2006 was my fastest, but I feel like I was still, even though I ran some other races after that, they were more competitive races than fast races. But more than a decade of progressing, and that's what it takes. It's you talk to the greatest CEOs in the world, and they say that persistence is the greatest key to success. And so just getting out there season after season and putting in the work and continuing to learn from all of your experiences, the good experiences and the ones you deem failures, it's really important to just use all of that information to continue to grow.
But do you think there's a little bit at the moment in endurance, in marathon running, where, we're seeing this huge array of fast times. We're also seeing fast times being run by younger athletes.
Right.
And we're also seeing faster debuts being run. It's kind of like, we live in a world where everybody wants something for nothing and everybody wants it instantly and quickly, and like it used to be the case. Listen to me whining. It used to be the case of effort and deferred gratification and graft got you, result. Maybe are people coming to marathons younger? Are people coming, to marathons more prepared to run marathons? Are more talented people, coming to marathons perhaps before they may have had previous careers? So we've got this expectation of going out and doing something quickly. So when somebody like Joshua Cheptegei, who is the Olympic 10,000 meter champion, world record holder in the 5 and 10, you think, oh, well, he's just going to go and run 2:01 off the bat, right? And of course he doesn't. We then go, oh, whew.
Right. But don't you think also like there could have been, I don't really know, I don't remember the circumstances that he didn't rise to the occasion, to the standards we were all holding for him in the marathon. In the marathon, it could be something as simple as your nutrition going wrong on the course, missing a couple water. Yeah. And then you're 5 minutes off the time that you intended on running. So I feel like the marathon is so tricky like that. That one thing can really throw you off your game in the day, which makes it so unnerving, right? To put in the months of preparation. And then maybe it's something in your control that you learn from or something out of your control that happens that really throws you off your game. So the marathon, when you can get it right, it is the most blissful day in the world. But when it's wrong, you can kick yourself and try again for later in the year, right?
And Tokyo is great, isn't it? Because it also sets the tone for the spring Abbott World Marathon major season. It's the first one. It's on March the 2nd. It's going to set the tone. And of course, London have bigged up their fields. Boston have bigged up their fields. So Tokyo, I wonder if Tokyo is going to come out with this like statement run. And then Boston and London are going to try and respond. So it's exciting.
Yeah,
it's not just the men's field, is it? It's the women's field's loaded as well.
Right. Battle of the Spring Marathons is on. And on the women's side in Tokyo, defending champion Sudame Asefa Kabede is back, but she's up against a seriously tough crowd with Rosemary Wanjiro, who won Tokyo back in 2023, Gotyetum Gebrselassie, who won Berlin in 2021, came in third in New York in 2022, was world champion in 2022 before coming back to earn a second crown the following year. And former world record holder Bridget Kosgei is back. She has won Tokyo, London, and so she is hungry to get back in the spotlight after having some mediocre runs. She's kind of been a little less consistent over the past year. And rounding out a serious field is Tigis Katima, who is also running. She ran 2:16:07 in her debut in Dubai last year. So what a field it is to kick off the spring marathon season.
And I kind of feel a bit for Bridget Kosgei because, of course, she broke Paula Radcliffe's long-standing world record, and you thought Bridget Kosgei, future of women's global marathon running, that she's broken this record which has stood for so long, and then,
yeah. Now her record, now the record is 5 minutes faster. I mean, what?
Everyone, and it's like this sea of elite performers have just come rumph and tramp, like a stampede of buffalo, wallop. And Bridget just kind of taken Bridget Kosgei's world record-breaking performance and kind of just battered it. So I think Tokyo is going to be very interesting, not only from those individual title winning performances, but also just from how Tokyo does as a major.
Right. And it's not just the professional running field that is stellar. On the women's wheelchair, Catherine de Bruyne is back. She's the world record holder with Eden Rainbow Smith of Great Britain and Manuela Schar, Madison De Rosario, Susanna Speroni, all the names that have just dominated the wheelchair division for so many years. On the men's side, it's Jen Hu from China, Daniel Romanchuk from the United States will be running in the men's wheelchair division. So some great races and a lot of 6-star hopefuls in Tokyo again.
Yes,
Tokyo was the
toughest one
set
to get
a
into,
world
isn't it?
record. Yeah, it's really hard. And so really awesome that so many 6-star hopefuls are getting ready. It is a month away, Tokyo runners. So I hope you're feeling ready. And if you're not feeling ready or not, here comes the race. And I hope you have the time of your life in Tokyo.
Yeah, it's like whether you're ready or not, it's happening.
It's happening.
It doesn't matter. It goes with it. It goes without you, no matter how ready you are. So you may as well be as ready as you can be.
Have you been to Tokyo for that marathon, Martin?
I haven't. Have you?
Because there are a lot of
I did a really American thing then, Dina. I nearly did this. I have not.
You sound very American.
I haven't. Have you?
So the New York City Marathon start that we got to experience together in November was so amazing to be on that bridge, the Verrazano Narrows Bridge, with thousands of other runners getting ready to take on the 5-borough challenge that is the New York City Marathon. Tokyo gets it so right. They have a confetti cannon at the start line. Ooh. So the gun fires and it's already a party. Like they don't wait to the finish line to start celebrating. They're celebrating you at the start line. And I just think that is so awesome.
That's what we should be doing. More confetti. Right. You mentioned at the beginning of the show that you, when it's a bit damp outside or a little bit cold, you tend to go running on a treadmill.
You cringe when you say that.
It's a treadmill, isn't it? It's a treadmill. I can't do very far on the treadmill. It's boring. Like, I'd rather, get up and get out. But there was some incredible stuff going on over the weekend in the UK at the National Running Show in Birmingham because Sophie Power set a new world record running 226 miles on a treadmill over the weekend.
And you know what? I think the only way you can do this is if you're running for a really good cause, because that seems like a nightmare. I might be able to bang off a Taylor Swift challenge by running the Eras Tour while belting out tunes. I think it was like 3 hours and 20 something minutes. That was the longest. It was dreadful, but I did it. But I cannot imagine doing 365 kilometers. But that is what Sophie Power did because she was running for charity. She races as a charity that helps break down barriers for women and break stigmas of women in running because she gained recognition in 2018, I think it was. Yeah, 2018, when she ran the Ultra Trail du Mont Blanc and ended up breastfeeding at around the 100 and something mile mark of that race.
Incredible photograph. Yeah.
Right. And how was she not dehydrated at that point? To be able to breastfeed at that far into an ultra marathon just seems heroic to me. But she just turns pages and is really doing great things for women in running.
She said afterwards that she said that the running on the treadmill was harder than running outdoors because there's no change in environment. Sophie's best known for being a mountain and an ultra runner. So, one of the beauties of that is the changing environment. You're moving through beautiful landscapes all the time. Whereas it's not like that in the NEC. The NEC, there's a big old exhibition hall. Just being in there for 48 hours is bad enough. Because of there's no sky, there's no outdoors. And this is she's not only did she spend the whole time running on a treadmill, but she did it indoors.
Right. Can you think of like
so you don't have the
all
stimulation.
of that?
Nothing.
Right. She said you don't have the stimulation of scenery or fresh air to keep you going. But I'm just thinking of those awful lights in those expo halls, like those fluorescent lights. Like that enough would just drive me mad.
Yeah. But doesn't it shows a great sort of internal mentality from Sophie, and the capacity just to, switch off and dial in to the mundane of going, just keeping going. It's why she's, such a great athlete, but it's not for me. Not for me. Should we stick with sort of slightly off the foot things? Because I have seen people running races in sandals before, but this one takes the sandal, doesn't it?
It takes the sandal for sure. Bartemis Kiplimo won the Khon Kaen Marathon in Thailand in a pair of super sandals. We got this information off of Runner's World. So if you'd like to see the whole story, you could go there. The Kenyan runner who won the race in 2:18:55. And I'm looking at the photo right now. His foot is actually coming out of the sandal a little, but the sling in the back is kind of holding it on his foot. I just can't imagine what his feet felt like at the end of this race. But I wanted to look up what his personal best was before. And his personal best before this race was 2 hours and 31 minutes. So he took a pretty big chunk off of his personal best.
I mean, that's huge, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like it was a carbon plated, like had a carbon sole in the sandal. But it's like, wow, that is as lightweight as it can get. And the other thing, I'm just trying to look at the close up. Looks like it's like a proper sandal with, that the thing that goes through between your big toe. So it's not like it's strapped. So before I've seen, sandals that are strapped, but that little thing that goes, it's probably in. If you were like a really keen sandal person, you would know the name of the thing that goes between your big toe and your other toes in a sandal.
Thong. It's a foot thong.
Is that what it is?
I don't know.
I'll take your word for that, Dina.
Yeah, because it's like a flip flop.
Yes,
a flip flop upper.
Yeah,
and then it's got like the strap.
Sole.
Yeah, and the strap on the back like a croc and a carbon plate. And it was made by the Thai running brand Ving. Yeah. And the name of the sandal is called Knee Run. And I looked up what that meant. And Knee Run in Thai means eternal, everlasting, and enduring. So what a great name for a super sandal.
What a competitive running sandal. So here's the question, Dina. Would you run in a pair of sandals? I mean, to be fair, you don't wear sandals and socks, right? I mean, Barnabas Kiplimo, you may have run 2:18, pal, but you've run it in sandals and white socks. It's a bit of a no. Just in the sort of, I'm
fashion in the fashion world. Is that what you're talking about?
I'm not the coolest in town. However, I do know that sandals and white socks as a combo is probably not the go-to fashion item. So I guess he's just going for the performance look and nothing else. I bet
we can have a whole show and have people calling in supporting a sock and sandal combo, and those who are entirely against it.
Tights and shorts. Isn't it? Socks and sandals are a no. I mean, the youth wear sliders and socks. I've seen a little bit of that. So maybe here we've got a sock sandal thing. But, most of the time, if you go walking about in socks and sandals, you're going to get a bit of a side eye, aren't you? He's got socks and sandals.
I'm willing to bet we have a split in our listenership right now. Some of them are shaking. Yeah, we're going to do a survey.
We need a tights under shorts survey, and we need a sandals.
What did you call that?
Shites. I'd like to think of something for sandals and socks, but
We're not that quick today.
Sandals. No, I definitely can't. Flip-flops and socks, no. Right, come on then. That's probably about it, isn't it, for this week? On this episode of Marathon Talk, I'm delighted to be joined by Tim Good. Tim is the chairman of the Matthew Good Foundation and is also the founder of the Race Ready organisation. Welcome, back, I guess, to Marathon Talk, Tim.
Yeah, indeed. It's been some time. I can't remember whether it was back end of 2011 or beginning of 2012, but yeah, a while ago.
It was a long time ago, and we were both having a little bit of a catch up, a bit of a kind of comment on the last 15 years, 14 years of time, and how it goes so quickly, and how many things change, but many things stay the same. And the things we'll talk about today around the way in which the Matthew Good Foundation has developed, and the Race Ready organisation that you're fronting, and behind how that's grown. So I'm really excited because that was embryonic back then. And I'm actually really excited to hear your story about how that has developed into into everything that it is now. So it's really good to have you back. Just for people that weren't listening 15, 14 years ago, how was it that we came into contact? Tell us a little bit about the Matthew Good Foundation.
So my brother died running a half marathon in 2011, June, a particularly hot day. It's the Humber Half. And prior to that, earlier that year, my brother and I were talking about how we might create a foundation as part of our family business. And then Matt passed away. We hadn't launched it. And so I just continued to launch it under his name. And I don't know, later on, after the dust had settled, I started calling around people to talk about it, try and figure out what happened. That led me to various different contacts. It led me to Doug Kasser in the United States, who's the leading authority on heat exhaustion in marathons. It led me to Chicago Marathon, and it led me to you guys wanting to talk about it and try and figure out perhaps what we can do. Because at this point we'd launched this foundation, and we were like, okay, we could try and figure out what happened and stop it from happening again. It was pretty early stage at that point.
And actually, I remember, talking about your brother, and I think I've been running a long time, Tim, and I wasn't clear even then, about what it meant to drink too much. My wife had been to 2 Olympic Games. I knew elements of it, but I still wouldn't call myself, super knowledgeable, particularly around my own kind of personal levels of hydration or a standard of hydration. And we'd done quite a bit of work on the show at the time about trying to bring, lots of voices, credible voices in to talk about things. So, we were always learning about the risks and also some of the rewards of, trying to run. And then, of course, we would hear stories like the stories of your brother, of Matthew, and think, well, how, obviously that happens. How does that happen, and what do we do? And I think so. What can we do from your point of view? You were able to, through that event, really gain, a catalyst and some purposeful direction for what's been the next 10 or 12 years of development for ideas and thought leading and bringing things forward to where you're at now. So, what have you done in that space in the last decade, and kind of why are we here now?
Yeah. So it's actually, I'll kind of give you a quick very quick overview of what I've done in the last 10 years, but actually prevention of what happened to Matt is actually quite simple. The thing that triggered it all off is that it was preventable. Okay, there are some things that aren't. You can have an underlying heart condition that you never knew about.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of cases where people get into trouble and it is preventable. And that's the thing that's both frustrating if you lose somebody, but also spurs you on. So when we found out what it was, and that's hyponatremia, that's a low...
Just explain what that is.
So it is a low sodium in the bloodstream, low salt, low sodium, but it's mostly caused by the intake of water, overhydration. And you often...
So the excessive intake of too much water, right?
And that's caused by a number of things, really. Firstly, I mean, I'm technically not a race medic, but I know a lot about it. So I will give you the basics without kind of giving anything too specific. But it happens particularly with amateurs that will go to a race. There will be many, many aid stations. They will grab a bottle at every aid station. It's a bottle, so they drink all of it. They might feel bad because they're throwing away a bottle. They're gulping rather than sipping. They might have an overzealous hydration strategy, or they may have woke up on the day and thought, I must hydrate. It's race day. Then if it's a hot day, you tend to just drink more anyway. Now, you're probably taking on more than you actually need because you're just psychologically thinking it's hot. You've then got exacerbated if you're sweating, and some people sweat more salt than others. But if you take that salt away and add water, it's exacerbating the issue. Now, so those two things together, I won't kind of go into details, but basically it causes your cells to swell. And in my brother's case, it pushes, you get cerebral edema, it pushes on your nerve and it stops your heart. Even though actually you're perfectly healthy, it's very difficult to come back from it. So that's what happened to Matt, but it was completely preventable, and it's actually treatable as well. But to be treatable, you have to know what's occurring. And so this is why the first 10 years of the foundation was doing best practice in how runners are treated on the finishing lines. Now, if you, for example, suffer from hyponatremia at, say, Chicago, one of the majors, George Champras runs a fantastic team there. They will know exactly that you're overhydrated rather than underhydrated. They're not going to put a drip into you thinking you're dehydrated when in fact you're overhydrated.
So I know you're not like a medical specialist, but and this isn't advice. This is coming from your experience, right? Your experiences and the knowledge that you picked up. But how do you know? So take me as a runner. How do I know?
Yeah.
So I understand the scenarios. How do I know whether I'm drinking too much or too little?
Yeah.
Are there any easily understandable kind of measures or pre-warning signs, or things I should put in place before, during, like as a response to? How do I know?
Yeah, so that's exactly it, and that's why after 10 years of doing the medical best practice, we launched Race Ready, which is we use the last kind of bit in our funding to build this app and share really easy, bite-sized information on how to avoid ever getting to the medical tent. There's many different things to do with heart and medication and overheating and hydration, but let's just you can download the app and go through this, but let's take hydration.
So the app, which incidentally is free, right? And the app deals with multiple issues around your safety as a runner, not just hyponatremia.
Exactly. Yeah, there's categories. Basically, you go into this app and you get different categories: nutrition, medical, hydration, and you can work through it in stages. So stage 1 is really simple information. Stage 2 is starting to go into the conditions and understanding a little bit more about it. And stage 3 is for your real boffins that just want to kind of drill into the detail. But let's just take Matt, for example. If he had the app and he had clicked on hydration, he would learn that the best hydration strategy is almost no hydration strategy. You just drink to thirst. Don't overthink it. Mm-hmm. Just listen to your body and drink to thirst. And if you are going to drink, if it is a hot day and you're running a long race, just replace those salts. And the easiest way to replace those salts is just salty snacks. Dead easy. And ignore what you don't need to just take a bottle at all the aid stations. You don't need to drink the whole thing. Just literally drink to thirst. That's it.
And of course, you know, I'm aware of that advice, and I'm also aware, you know, of some of the risks of conflicting advice that runners can hear, because those messages are not always consistent. You know, they're not always. It's almost like, if I come at this first off, who do I know how to trust? So, you know, look, kind of being brutal, Matt, how do I know that we can trust what you say?
Yeah. So it's true. What you're saying is true. You only need to go onto a Facebook page and type in hydration, or even ask that question, which we have done on these pages to see, and you get a whole different thing.
Exactly. I've got to kind of be my own Google, right? I don't know what's right. Yeah.
And we even did some interviews at the running show last weekend, and just to see what people did. And right from the spectrum was huge, right from the really experienced runner down to the amateur. Everybody has completely different ideas about how much they should drink if we're just taking the hydration on its own. But the data within Race Ready is scientifically backed. It goes through our own panel, our own kind of content panel, and that.
And who's on that? Like what does that mean?
Yeah,
you know, and I'm being deliberately kind of devil's advocate here, Tim. You know, is that you and your mates deciding this is a good idea?
This is,
you know, where's the validity? Where's the validity of the evidence?
Yeah, well, this is why it was difficult to set up something like this 10 years ago. But with all my experience and contacts over 10 years, it was easy to create a team. So we've got Courtney Kipps from London Marathon on the medical team there, Vice Medical Director. Rob Galloway, ex-Brighton Medical Director, who pretty much ran best practice in the UK and has contributed a lot to best practice. We've got Paolo Ademi from World Academy of Endurance Medicine, who is the medical arm of World Athletics, which basically sets best practice globally. And then you've got Amy Bolsh, who runs it on a day-to-day basis, and she is a marathon medic. She actually runs a Marathon Medic podcast. And even then, when that content is created, it's based on scientific papers. And even then, it goes through the engine of the World Academy for Endurance Medicine, which has its own panel. So by the time it's spat out of the end of there and approved, it's absolutely sound advice.
Yeah, and also, look, and I think this is really important. It's not like you're not sponsored by a drinks manufacturer, right? You know, because to do this really ethically, you need to have that independence, and of course there's elements of being able to fit that trusted, valid, robust, evidence-based, scientific, proven research that benefits the health and the safety of runners everywhere, regardless of experience, right? And I think I'm been looking at the website and talking to you. I think that's the point at which you're coming to. This is a free resource for everyone to download to educate themselves about raising awareness of some of the things that may impact the safety of their participation. So that if we were to rewind to 2011 and Matthew had this in his pocket, he may have been more educated about his own personal preparation and requirements, but also, the people on the ground may have had the opportunity to be more educated too, whether medical professionals, race volunteers, marshals, race directors. There's something for us all to understand here.
Yeah, so we are. I've made sure that the way this is set up, it's absolutely non-profit. It can't ever be a profit-making enterprise, and I would like to think that it'll become sustainable in its own right. We currently fund it as a foundation, a family, but it's a catch-22 when you can't partner with sponsors. It's difficult to raise funds, but at the same time, nobody wants to trust it if it is partnered with sponsors. So we are working on a model that will make it sustainable. It doesn't have to be loaded with costs, so we can keep it going. And as I say, we've got the support of some big organizations like the World Academy for Endurance Medicine. So it is entirely free. We're never going to charge for it. We're never going to put in-app purchases or modules that require extra cost or anything like that. And that's the way it's always going to be.
And there's a lot, for a runner to think about, and there's a lot for us to be aware of. How have you come to the priorities that the platform might cover? So I'm looking, there's something about medical, there's something about performance, there's something about nutrition, there's, something about hydration, there could be symptom checks, there's opportunity for you to be reflective. Like, how did you come up with everything that goes into it?
Well, I suppose you have to ask marathon medics and medical directors that, because they've been working in it for so long, but they know what they see on the finish lines. They know what the causes are, and they know how to treat it. So it's about developing simple advice just to avoid that. And also how to spot the symptoms, which I didn't actually mention when you said that. You said, how do I know? Like,
go back to it, yeah.
So with certain things, like dehydration, the symptoms are quite slow. Certain things, once you start getting symptoms, it's quite far on. But let's just take, we want the app, basically with the app, we don't want you to get to the symptom stage. But let's take overheating, for example. That's core temperature. That's exhaustional heat stroke, not just heat stroke being hot in hot weather, although that's worse. And then let's also take hyponatremia. The two have quite similar actual symptoms towards the severe side, which is what we'd call being altered. So if you're running and you feel very slightly something's not quite right, so like slight dizziness, your memory is just a little bit not on, you just know, don't you, when something's just not quite right. Now, this is slightly worse in blokes. That's like, maybe I'll slow down, maybe I'll run through it. I'm only a mile away from the finishing line, these sorts of things. Once you start getting to those sorts of stages, that's the time not to just slow down, but just to stop or walk. Because in, for example, Matt's case and hyponatremia, once the brain starts to get to that stage and you start to become altered, becoming slightly delirious, you're close to collapsing. But the idea is that you don't get to those.
That's a fine line, isn't it? Yeah, that's a really difficult line to draw. So, for many marathon runners listening, they'll be like, but I thought marathons were supposed to hurt. How do you know where that window, like, there's a window, isn't there? There's this, like, your desire to override the signals that you're experiencing because it's a marathon or whatever it is, and you're pushing through that discomfort. And, we're talking about suffering, we're talking about being uncomfortable, and yet also we're talking about being really in tune to your body and having a detailed awareness for the things your body tells you and putting those things together in such a way that you can still make, or maybe not you, maybe you and those around you may still be able to make informed and sensible decisions that could save your life.
Yeah.
Right. And that's really difficult to make. Like, I've personally been in situations where, in races where I've thought I am really, really redlining this, and then you are both not well in the race and not well afterwards.
Yeah.
And at the highest point of engagement and pushing yourself, I'm trying to reflect back, how would I have responded? When the things you've just described came to me, would I have had the capacity to know them, notice them, and respond to them?
Yeah, and you're not, and runners are not doctors. They can't suddenly determine, are you slightly hyponatremic, or do you have a high core temperature? The thing is to just not get to that stage with simple kind of measures. You can definitely avoid being hyponatremic, so you can write that one off with simple measures. Heat wise, you can, if it's going to be a hot day, it's just not a time for a personal best. We mentioned in the app also last mile, we see a lot of runners get into trouble in that last section.
Yes. Yep.
The body finds a little level and people push themselves and it tips them over the edge. Just don't go for it on the last mile. Just keep to the pace. If you want to speed up, maybe speed up a little bit earlier. Simple measures.
Isn't that hard? Because I can remember this too, Tim. We're stood there spectating, or we're watching, and we're really encouraging people who are on the verge of collapse. And if I think back 15, more years ago, I would have encouraged people to push that discomfort, and actually hearing you, and, I have a wider responsibility to not, we see it on the television, we see it with athletes, we sometimes even celebrate it when their legs wobble and they hit the ground. And actually, we have a responsibility to the safety and the health of those participants so that they can exist in a space where they can push themselves. Because that's what endurance events are about, isn't it? Like experiencing what that means, but yet at the same time, experiencing it within within knowledge, within safety, within stress parameters. And I think that's kind of where the app gives you that awareness, right?
Yeah, and I think also this is why the app, it's not a performance app. There's lots of performance training apps and things out there. We're a health app, we're a safety app. But the thing is, it's so intrinsically linked to performance. You get these things right, you're not, if you're running a good race and you're thinking, you're going to get a good time here, and that barrier, that illness, that kind of altered state doesn't affect you because you've been doing things right, that's going to lead you to finishing the race with a good time, right? So that's
a better performance.
Sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Managing, like having an understanding of those issues and then being able to manage them also increases your confidence and your capacity to be able to push harder. So knowing I might be appropriately hydrated, for example, before the start of the race, gives me confidence to know that I might be able to do things later in the race, or understanding patterns of heart rate, in the race, understanding those things might be able to help. What are the main, look, I could talk to you for ages, but we only have a few minutes left. Like, what are the main considerations that you say, okay, if there's uncertainty, or you feel like there's, you're a runner and you're listening to this and you feel like there's an awareness, which is, these are the things that the app focuses on. So if you're not sure about that, go along and have a look at it. What are those core areas?
Well, if someone said, top 5 pieces of advice, right, I've got 5 minutes, I'm right to this race, here's the top 5 pieces of advice. So let's go heat. If you're feeling overheated, if you're feeling that core temperature potentially at risk, it is a risk just slow down. Like we at Brighton Marathon last time we were there, we were doing a new cooling technique. A guy on a cold day came across the line with a 104 core temperature. That's really, really serious, and could affect him for the rest of his life. So he probably ran through his discomfort. So that would be the other thing. Have a feel for heat. Drink to thirst. So the hydration thing, just drink to thirst. And if you are going to drink, replace your salts. If you're going to take electrolytes, just make sure it has actually got sodium in it, because sodium is the most important out of your electrolytes. Don't speed up in the last mile. It causes problems. It upsets things. Happened to Matt. He was absolutely fine until the last mile. He probably looked at his watch. I think he was going for a 1 hour 30, and it was a hot day. He probably looked at his watch and thought, I'm just going to increase the pace slightly. And that it's difficult to prove, but could have set him over the edge. Don't take anti-inflammatories and ibuprofens. It's not just a case of masking a pain and giving you some musculoskeletal damage. It is linked to other things that exacerbate exponentially problems. So just don't do it. And if you need ibuprofen to be running a race, then you should be making the question where you should be doing it. And this sounds obvious, but it's not. If you're at all feeling unwell, like if you just feel like you're coming down with something, which when you've got a race of that many people, it's going to be a good number of them, just don't do it. Because again, it's an exponential thing. Just because you're coming down with something, once you start feeling the symptoms, it means your body's already fighting something off, cold, flu, COVID, whatever. It's exponential how it affects the other things. It could make you heat stroke a lot more quickly. It could potentially make you hyponatremic and these sorts of things.
So, real lesson in tuning in and listening and taking responsibility. And, I think I could talk to you more about the shared responsibility of that. We don't have time now, but, maybe that is something I don't need. And perhaps the Race Ready platform does this already, but, for me as a spectator, or for me as a partner, for me as a friend, for me as a brother, what do I do and how do I do that when I can see something in somebody? There's so much in there. Listen, Tim, I'm grateful for you coming back on Marathon Talks to talk about those things. If you want to find out a little bit more about Race Ready, you can at raceready.run. I think I've got that right.
It's on all the app stores and stuff like that. Have we got time for me to just kind of do a quick kind of shout for help ourselves?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So because we're non-profit, it's difficult to get this out. But there's kind of a few areas that we'd like some help for. So we'd really like races and events that want to help their runners contact us. It's free. Put the QR code in your race manual, and it'll give your runners the advice they need, and much less likely to come to your medical tent. So anybody of that would be great. We're looking for ambassadors. Now, technically, ambassadors to us, we don't have a product, are people that have had an issue themselves. They've either been treated on a race, they know a friend that's been treated on the race, a family member has been treated or died. And of those, we're looking for people who are influencers, who are content creators, elites that may have had problems. We know there are elites out there that have had these issues and been treated well. Or anybody in the media who could come to us and say, right, we'll be an ambassador for you. That would be great. And then the last thing is that a lot of the media and organizations only want to partner with people when they've got likes and reviews and shares. And it's kind of hard to get that. We might have, at the moment, we've got many thousands of users using the app, but not many people are actually going on and we know they like it. But
okay.
You know what I mean?
Tell you. Okay. If people want to get in touch, Tim, what's the best way to do that with you?
Yeah. So just on the website, we're actually hoping to have a platform where people can message in and kind of ask the medical director. That would be an awesome thing.
Yeah.
And we're working on that. So, but you can get in touch with us through Facebook or Instagram or, the usual.
Yeah, or you can just email info@raceready.run as well.
Totally.
Great. Well, thanks very much, Tim. Good to have you on the show.
Yeah, great to chat and great to catch up. Thanks so much.
So what are you up to for the next couple of weeks, Martin?
Well, I'm hoping that this damp weather will back off a little bit. I'm still pushing the training, Dina, a little bit. I want to get that routine. I say to so many people when you start in January, it's really important to have a strong routine. And at the minute, I just don't have one. And so, I really want to get into that routine of consistent running where I'm dropping a decent length run and something with intensity in the week. But I'm not there yet. But I am pushing for that. I tell you what I am doing. I'm doing something nice. I'm going to the theatre to watch an Inspector Calls, which will be nice. I'm doing that with my mum and my daughter. So, that's going to be, that's a fun thing for me to do.
That's a yearly tradition, isn't that?
Yeah,
is that
take
a
my
tradition
mum to the theatre. Yeah, we're going to watch an Inspector Calls, and I've got the normal things of running the kids around. I'll tell you what else I'm doing. You'll like this one, Dina. Liz and I went out the other day. We went for just before Christmas. We went out for a drink, and we were at our little local pub, and they had a quiz happening in the sort of room next door. So we didn't do the quiz, but we did buy a raffle ticket for the quiz. And you never win anything in raffles, do you? So it's like, we do the raffle ticket. Well, it was just before Christmas. We thought we'd do the raffle, and maybe the pre-Christmas things are like rubbish box of chocolates or like a whatever you get in pre-Christmas raffles. But we had 5 tickets, and Liz got them, and so Liz went next door to the room where they were doing the quiz, and they drew the raffle tickets, and she won first prize. And
what was it?
Prize was a night away in a hotel. There you go. So we've cashed that bad boy in. And
that's great.
Yeah, it's in a place that we really like on the Southwest Coast Path, which is a place I love to run. So we're going to go and do a little bit of running. And have a night away. There we go. What are you up to?
Oh my gosh, that is wonderful. Well, as you're trying to get into your running groove, it seems like everyone needs a little midwinter boost, because I've gotten a lot of calls from businesses that want the little pep talks for their employees or their partners. So I have in the next couple of weeks a few of those going on. Some corporations that have asked me to give a little hour of optimism to their employees to kind of boost morale as the weather kind of drags us down a little. So everyone needs it. Hopefully we're helping give people a little boost in this show so that everyone else can enjoy the run wherever it takes them.